You need any help that day, we'll have it.
Yeah,
I can
right.
do it. Yeah, all right. Hot mic.
All right, Cody says we're live, so got another minute before the official 5 o'clock start. Between the Packers and the Kentucky Wildcats, I'm not enjoying football season.
I understand that.
Ah, man.
I'd be better Saturday.
Louisville was looking good for a minute.
Yeah, they were.
So were the Commanders, and then game 3, 4, 5, and 6 came, and it was all downhill.
That's kind of how it was for Green Bay. They were 2-2 at one time, and now
We were
they're-
2-0 for
now
the
they're-
first time in
yeah.
quite a few seasons, and I was just glad the Astros lost baseball.
Oh,
I'm a Dodger fan. You know how we feel about the Astros?
I've got 5 o'clock.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. It's October 24th, 2023. The time is 5 o'clock. It's time to begin our monthly meeting of the Board of Directors for the Glasgow Electric Plant Board. First item on this evening's agenda, we'll consider the approval of the agenda. It's a little bit longer tonight than normal, but is there any questions on what we'll be discussing? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion, Lowry.
Motion by Lowry.
Second.
Second by Stevens. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. Item 2, we'll consider the minutes of the previous meeting. Everything looked in order to me. Did anybody see any discrepancies or anything on that? They're usually very accurate, so at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting as presented.
motion, Rowlett.
Motion by Rowlett. Do we have a second?
Second, Lowry.
Second by Lowry. If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Item number 3, we'll consider the approval of a bid for the purchase of unit number 5, and I guess Dave's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is the first of 2 new trucks that we're proposing to purchase. Unit 5 is a truck for the line crew foreman and one of the line crew foremen. And it's currently, his current truck is a 2013, I think it's a 3/4 ton truck, and it's 10 years old. What we're proposing here is a 1-ton truck, and we received only 1 bid. We sent it out to the dealers in town and with specs that any one of them could have met. But we only received a bid from Bailey Gibson in the amount of $63,911.05. And so I recommend that we purchase this 1-ton truck from Bailey Gibson in that amount. The old Unit 5 is actually going to go to the engineering department, so we're not trading it in, but we have 3 people in the engineering department, and each one of them will have their own vehicle because they're always going, in different directions. So this is part of that plan to get a 1-ton truck. That truck is also used for towing trailers with heavy equipment on it, and it's going to have a flatbed on it to haul transformers and those sorts of things. So the other foreman's truck is actually a 1-ton that was we awarded the bid prior to my arrival, but we've had that. It took like 2 years to get it. We don't anticipate this one's going to take that long. So.
Is this price pretty comparable to what you anticipated it
Yeah,
coming in at?
yeah, and we actually looked for both gas and diesel. The diesel was 72,000, but the towing capacity was basically the same. Diesel would do better over long distances towing, but for in town, the actual towing capacity of the 1-ton gas and the 1-ton diesel was the same, and the price was for the gas is $9,000 less. So, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
Don't know the availability yet, just.
No, not on this one, but I don't anticipate it's going to be real long. I think what I would do is if it gets approved tonight is at the next meeting just give you an update because we'll know that once they put the order in if they get it. So.
Is it 2-wheel or 4-wheel?
4-wheel.
Yeah.
And is it a dually or is it a single wheel?
That I don't know. Do you know, Wade?
I don't know.
I think the one we have right now is a single axle.
It is.
Do you remember what the spec said, Amy? I think it's
just single.
I think it's just single.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just seen some of those trucks running around. They seem pretty handy sometimes to
Yeah.
get in and out of places.
Yeah.
On that, so.
So,
Any other questions or any discussion on this? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to purchase a 1-ton GMC truck from Bailey Gibson, which was the low bidder, in the amount of $63,911.05.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Oliver and a second by Rowlett. And if there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. Moving on to number 4, we'll consider the approval of the bid for the purchase of unit number 20.
yeah, so this is the second vehicle that we're proposing to purchase, again, for the engineering department. With the retirements that we've had, and we changed the organizational structure a bit, and just created the need for another vehicle. We had a vehicle that was like a small SUV, I don't know if you can call it an SUV, what you call 19, but
I think it'd be considered a crossover.
yeah, like a crossover. And for the engineering department, though, pickup is really necessary. So this is a half-ton truck to be used by the engineering operations manager. We send out requests for bids with bid specs for a half-ton pickup. And again, the only bid we received was from Bailey Gibson, and that was in the amount of $44,380. And I recommend that we approve this bid for this half-ton pickup truck from Bailey Gibson. So, Unit 19 that the engineering manager was somewhat using is going to be a general use vehicle for like the marketing department. We're always going to the schools and to meetings downtown, and so that we'll still maintain that vehicle. But this is a truck specifically for engineering. So.
Okay. Any questions or anything?
Bailey Gibson owns a place in town lately?
Yeah, I think some of the dealers, if it's not a multiple vehicle bid, they don't bother maybe. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But Bailey Gibson didn't know that they weren't bidding against anybody, so we got their best price.
All right. If there's not any more questions or comments, then I'll entertain a motion to purchase a GMC truck from Bailey Gibson, which was the low bidder, in the amount of $44,380.
So moved.
All right, have a motion by Stevens,
Second.
second by Lowry. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion also passes. Moving on to number 5, we'll consider adopting the distributor power rate schedule for the EBC.
Yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward item, and yet it gets a little bit complicated as we talk about it. So what TVA has done is they've created 2 commercial electric vehicle rates that we are able to offer to our customers. So it's a metered rate. And the reason that they created these rates is that EV chargers have right now the ability and the likelihood that they could set some high demands with very low usage, and our customers would end up paying a significant demand charge, and they wouldn't have a lot of energy usage associated with it. So if they had just 1 or 2 customers that use the charging stations. So this is, for example, Gilly Hyde, I think, is putting in some charging stations, and so is Don Franklin, and so is Bailey Gibson. So this is for a customer of ours that wants to install EV chargers. So instead of putting it on their existing commercial rate, this meter would be specific for the EV chargers, and it would be on its own rate, so that, because if it was on their existing account, it would, spike their demand, and again, with very little usage, and just would be uneconomical really for them to offer this charging to their customers. So what this does is it's a rate that just has a flat customer charge of $100 and a kilowatt hour charge of somewhere, I think it's around 22 cents per kilowatt hour. And but there's no demand charge with it for them, so that it's TVA's way of introducing EV charging without severe penalties on the demand charges. This is only going to probably last for so long, and then once as EV charging becomes more of a thing, you're going to see more of a move toward demand charges and the time of use rates in this case. But this is a way of pulling it out of their normal demand rate, and making it more palatable, so that to encourage the installation of EV chargers. So we had a couple of options, and one was complicated with demand charges, and it would pull a certain piece of the demand out of our wholesale rate and use separate calculations. This one is simple. It doesn't do anything behind the scenes. It's really just sort of a balance of risk between us as the LPC and TVA and really the customer. Our risk is that there will be demand charge. The demand that we see on our system, because a customer is using these chargers, is going to hit our wholesale demand rate that we pay. But what we think and what TVA thinks is that it's just not going to be that significant early on here. It's probably not going to be at our most peak time, more than likely, and it just should be relatively insignificant. The customer risk, or what the customer shares, is that they're paying 23 cents a kilowatt hour, which the normal commercial rates are down in the 10 or 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So anytime the customer, or anytime this charge is being used, it's at that higher flat rate. And then TVA's risk with it is that they're also looking at the demand side and monitoring how much demand these chargers put on the system. So that's a lot of information that it's a lot of moving pieces. But at the end of the day, what I'm requesting is that the board approve this distributor electric vehicle charging power rate, scheduled EVC, and it's a flat rate with $100 a month, and somewhere I have 19.995 cents per kilowatt hour, but I think that was the 2022 rate, and I think this year's rate is probably 22 cents or something like that. But anyway, whatever the rate is that TVA has is the rate that it will be. So
Will we
Yeah, I think the
revisit
email
with
says
the
23.
TVA the structure of how we're doing this at what point? Like yearly?
yeah, for sure. I think every October. So when we choose a rate like this, we can alter it each October. So yes, yearly. And the impact early on just isn't going to be significant for us. We know of several chargers. In fact, this is the rate that we'll put on the meter that we'll talk about here later of our own charging stations.
Right.
And that's, again, one of the reasons we're putting those charging stations in, is to really see the impact firsthand on our system. But yeah, we'll have the opportunity to revisit it annually. And so the other rate would really be a demand rate, and those demands would be pulled out of our wholesale demand and all that. But there's really just no need to do that right now.
I get it.
Yeah. Because at, at 23, if we're getting 23 cents a kilowatt hour, 22 or 23 cents a kilowatt hour, that's really taking into account the demand and energy, no matter when it is. If it's happening off, at a 6 o'clock or later, the margin is really significant, because our cost is down in the 4-cent range. If it's happening at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot day, it's probably costing us more than 22 cents. But on average, this is what was, yeah. So, and we will have time an opportunity to respond, So Melanie was actually involved in the conversations with TVA. Was there anything that you would add to?
I don't think so. So this rate would be an optional rate for these customers. They could also choose their normal GSA.
Yeah, you're right, that's
2
true.
or 3 rate. So it would be up to the customer to then decide if they want to use this rate that you all are choosing, or just their normal GSA 2 or 3.
Yeah. So in other words, they could choose to wire their chargers into their existing infrastructure and just have it be part of that. And in some cases, that might make more sense for them. If they want to have it, like in the case of some of the smaller dealers, they don't want that larger demand charge. A big company, it wouldn't matter. Like the hospital, for example. The hospital could just put a charging station on the hospital grounds, and if it was being used, it's not going to really change their overall, profile.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That. Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
So right now, this pretty much applies to like the big fast chargers, right? Like Don
Yeah,
Franklin
it
and
really,
Baker
yeah,
Gibson.
this wouldn't be something that, a small, I guess, the smallest chargers would not use this rate, but it's be something like the bigger chargers that are being
Businesses.
installed at the
Like
businesses.
I think they've
yeah.
got one over at South Central Bank, in their
they
garage
could.
over there, so
Yeah.
theirs is probably wired into the.
Yeah,
Yeah, on that rate schedule, you'll see it's for any that are 50 kW or more, so it would be.
oh, yeah, that's the other, right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should say.
So like, yeah, the
charge.
chargers being installed at the dealerships, their demand is over that 50 kW mark. It's certainly not as high as, what's it, peak 5,000? Up to
5,000 was what
Yeah,
it hit.
it's not anywhere close to that, but it's probably somewhere in the 150 to 300 range, so. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay.
I didn't really intend on getting that deep into it either, but I think it's good to try and, it's a lot to wrap.
So the $100, what's it for?
So the $100 is the customer charge. So like, if you get your bill, it would be $100 customer charge. And then the per kilowatt hour charge would be,
Okay.
somewhere between
And the-
19.9.
22.
Yeah, 22 cents.
The customer
Agree.
charge covers the maintenance of
Yes.
wires in, wires out,
Yeah.
service, meter, just like your house, right?
Yeah, and our other customer charges, like on the residential side, are somewhere in the, $26 to $27 range. The commercial, or our small commercial customer charge is $42. This is, for this rate, this was the.
That's once a year?
No, this is
Monthly.
monthly.
Monthly, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right.
Yep. Mhm. And like Melanie said, it's an optional rate to again, try to encourage EV charging and without the discouragement of high demand charges hitting customer bills with no real revenue from it. So.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. I guess I'll entertain a motion to adopt TVA's distributor electric vehicle charging power rate schedule EVC.
Make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Rowlett. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Oliver. Any other questions? If not, All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Number 6, consider the approval of a 750 kVA transformer bid.
Yeah, so we have bids here for 750 kVA transformers. The bid that we're proposing to accept is actually a remanufactured transformer, and this is for one of the locations that's putting in some new EV chargers. So, you know, it's a significant investment that is being made by us and also by the customer.
Is that a pretty decent lead time, 9 to 11 weeks? Are they
Yeah.
starting to come a little quicker?
They're starting to come a little bit quicker, yeah. And this meets the time frame of the customer too, so. But yeah, we've received several bids. The first two the bids, the 29,980 bid and the 33,578 bid are for remanufactured. The power supply company bid of 45,000 was actually for a new transformer, so that's why it's significantly higher. But the remanufactured comes with a 3-year warranty, and we've had good luck with them. So that's the recommendation is to purchase the 750 kVA transformer from Sunbelt Solomon in the amount of $29,980.
And this is for one of our local
Yeah.
dealerships, maybe,
Yeah.
or something?
The email on the back's
Yeah.
got the business name.
Yeah.
I didn't scroll down that far.
Just for curiosity, what is the lead time on a new one at this point?
I guess I don't know. Do you know from conversations that you've heard?
I think you're somewhere on the new, you're still in the 40-week.
Okay.
Much
Wow,
better.
it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at almost 2 years at one point. I just remember
Yeah.
that, so that's why I
9
was
to
kinda
11
curious.
is a whole lot
So,
better
yeah.
than 40.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to purchase a remanufactured 750 kVA transformer from Sunbelt Solomon, which was the low bidder, in the amount of $29,980. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Lowry.
Motion
Second.
by Lowry and a second by Stevens. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Okay.
Moving on to number 7, the superintendent's report.
All right. Now, normally this is the part where we're just sort of, but there's more to come after these reports. So, but some good news on the fuel cost adjustment front. The fuel cost for November is proposed to be 2.132 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's down from 2.235 in October, and it's really been holding steady in that 2.1 to 2.3 range, it seems like, the last several months. And what they're saying here is that one of the reasons that it's 4% lower than the 3-year average for November is that their deferral account rate is lower, meaning that as they've made allocations for what they think the power supply cost is going to be, they over allocated, and now they're able to take some of that back and lower the fuel cost adjustment that we're seeing. So instead of prices going the wrong way, they're leveling off and coming down. So we're able to recoup some of that money that was allocated in past total monthly fuel cost rates. And so hopefully that's a good trend that we'll see for a few months here in a row. So, any questions on that? And then on the outage report for September, again, better news than a year ago. We've had 14 events, and 8 of those, again, were animals.
Looks
which
like a lot of
means-
squirrel problems.
Yeah.
Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel.
Yeah, and we
Bird.
continue to, put squirrel guards on and add insulated, like, jumpers from the fuse cutout to the transformer bushing. But, they find ways to get across the phases, or phase to ground. And so, yeah, 8 of the 14 were animals, 2 were trees, 2 were unknown, and 2 were other. So, one of these meetings, I'm going to get this spreadsheet where it's a lot more readable as well, but there's just a lot going on these days. And that's just not a high priority, so anyway. The only update really for the fiber to the home project that we'll share is that we continue to add customers to fiber over here. You know, it's been a learning process, but it's going well. I think we've really only, as we've installed these customers, only one real issue with equipment. Otherwise, the customers, it's going very well in that regard. For the phase 2 that we voted on last month, we're going to be getting some equipment bids, and we're probably going to come back to the board with some ideas on an approach at the next meeting. So just wanted to kind of, without saying a whole lot about it, just prepare you for that, you know, that stays within the same dollar amount, but just approaching it a little bit differently. So I don't think there's anything really to add to that, is there, Wade?
No.
Okay. All right. Now, so that's it for reports, and now we got the new old
Okay.
business.
Number 8, we're on to the new and old business.
Yeah.
So,
So there's 4 items here that pertain to things that we worked on before. The first one is, at the last meeting, if you remember, we designated Thomas Grubbs as our designated agent for FEMA. Prior to the meeting, we had sent emails and tried calling Thomas to see if that was the way to approach it. And this is not any big deal as far as we're concerned or Thomas is concerned, but the communication just didn't happen in time for this meeting. After we talked to him, he said, no, you should have, you know, me as, or an EPB person as the designated agent. So what we really need to do is amend that motion to rescind Thomas Grubbs as the designated agent for FEMA purposes and make it the superintendent. So the way I'm proposing to do it is that, let's see, to first make a motion rescinding Thomas Grubbs as a designated agent for purposes of FEMA, and then second, a motion designating the Glasgow Electric Plant Board's superintendent as the designated agent for purposes of FEMA. I don't think that I need to be, you know, named as a person. If the board designates a superintendent, and then there's a change at the superintendent level, we can just do different, you know, a different document with FEMA. So I think it's just a way of cleaning it up. Think that works, Melanie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that work for you, Ron?
Works for me.
Yeah. So.
I think there was that issue when Robert had asked if he had insurance or bonded.
Bonding.
Oh, and yeah. That's
He had
right.
insurance, but he wasn't bonded.
Yeah. So we're making it, you know, with someone here as the agent, which is fine. It doesn't really change anything, you know.
I think
It's
we
just
passed
that.
that after the fact last time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So,
okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion rescinding Thomas Grubbs as the designated agent for purposes of FEMA.
Motion, Lowry.
Motion by Lowry,
Second. Rowlett.
second by Rowlett. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes. And we'll follow it up I'll entertain a motion designating the Glasgow Electric Plant Board Superintendent as the designated agent for purposes of FEMA.
Motion, Lowry.
Motion by Lowry,
Second by Rowlett.
second by Rowlett. Any other questions on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes.
Was something sent to Grubbs last time after the meeting? I can't remember if if y'all signed something designated him.
We did have it signed, but we never
Did it
sent it
say?
in.
Okay. I just want to be sure if we needed to send something.
yeah, so we can just take care of that,
Mhm.
yeah, internally, so. Yeah.
Okay, part B of that, we'll consider adding an additional internet rate.
Yeah, so, you know, this is a add-on to the internet rate discussion we had really over the last 2 meetings. And what we'd like to do is add an additional entry-level broadband internet rate. And I think that, let's see, do you guys have?
We've got this.
You have it, right?
This is loose back there.
Yeah, it was loose, but yeah. So,
Right before that page is where mine was. Yeah, no. Yeah,
I
that's
can,
it.
here, I can give you mine because,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm reading off my notes.
Go right there. You should see what we've
Yeah.
got.
So anyway, what, I'd like to get an additional entry-level rate for our broadband service, and it'd be a 15 megabit by 2 megabit rate, and not to exceed $45 a month, and it would only be available to customers within our electric footprint. It's because it's really at the low end of a rate that we'd want to offer.
Because right now, 25 is 25 the entry?
Yeah, 25
Okay.
by 5,
Okay.
yeah. And it's a $55 rate,
Yep.
so. Any questions on that?
Okay. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion adding a 15 megabyte, 2 megabyte, which is a 15 by 2 internet-only rate, not to exceed $45 a month, and only available to customers within the EPB's electric footprint.
So moved.
Have a motion by Stevens,
Second, Lowry.
second by Lowry. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes.
All right. So now, yeah. C is talking about the EV chargers. So I think what I would do right now is just turn it over to Wade briefly before we get into the rate discussion, and just give an update on the EV chargers and that process. And
Sure. So the chargers, I think we all have a picture there that I was taking. We were able to get those up and online and commissioned today. So they're out there, ready to go. So once you all go through this next step of getting the approval there of the rates, we'll have them open to the public and ready to run.
Seen a lot of people looking at them.
Yeah.
I saw some, when I drove by the other day, there were some people taking pictures. I think they were
so this,
excited to see kind of how it's all going to work.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see if we get usage on it or not. So as you recall, this was really a partnership between us and the city and TVA. We voted to move forward with the project in July of 2022. So I think it was June or July.
Right.
So over a year ago, and with just supply chain issues, which I'm tired of hearing about, but is what it is. We just, it was some of the small stuff too that held us up. These chargers were sitting in our warehouse for,
Several months.
yeah, months. But it was the equipment to get the panel, like the electrical panel that we needed, which you would think would be sitting on the shelf somewhere. That's what we didn't have, and they couldn't get it. So anyway, the work started probably about maybe 6 weeks ago, 4 to 6 weeks ago, and was recently completed. And then there was an issue with one of the chargers. Had to get a small piece, a panel, overnighted to us. So now they're ready, and they're actually loaded and ready to go right now. But that really leads to the next thing that we'll talk about, which is how do we set the rate that the customers are paying when they connect. How do we want to go about that? What I'm going to propose is that because we don't really know what the market is yet and how it's going to evolve, is to and really although the little TVA Act never contemplated EV chargers when it was written, it's still, the board really has to approve all rates. So even though this isn't, it's an electric rate that the customer clearly has a choice. They don't have to use this charger. You know, they could use a charger at Bailey Gibson, they could use it at Gilly Hyde, they could use it over in Bowling Green at Meyer. You know, they can charge at their house. So it's not really a typical utility rate, but as Ron and I discussed, it's still a rate that we offer, and so it has to come to the board. But because we don't really know how this market's going to go, what I'm proposing is that delegate the responsibility for setting the rate to the superintendent, but with a range. And what I'm proposing is a minimum of 24 cents a kilowatt hour and a maximum of 50 cents a kilowatt hour. And that, you know, and it wouldn't just be me, but myself and Wade and whoever else would just look at what the market's doing and come up with, okay, here's the rate for these charging stations. We want them used. You know, we're not gonna set the rate higher than it really should be, but we have to find that balance and what's a rate that's going to recover recover our cost and still be competitive and encourage customers to charge there. So,
Would you anticipate that cost to the customer could fluctuate weekly, daily, monthly?
I think what I would say is I think Wade today, just to choose something because he had to, chose 35 cents, right? I think we would leave it at 35 cents for a while and start to learn, get feedback, and then that certainly wouldn't change daily. You know, I would say it might change weekly or monthly. The other thing though is that we might, you know, maybe there's days when we would offer a special rate or something. I really, you know, I don't know what the market is doing. We're new into it, and it's part of the reason we've put these chargers out there is to really be involved in the EV market, EV charging market.
Am I thinking of this in the right way, that the 24 cents, we're looking at a commercial group paying 23 cents a kilowatt hour?
Right.
That's their cost.
Yeah, and it
and
would
what
be-
they pass
yeah.
along to the consumer is probably going to be towards that 35 cent
Right,
mark in order
exactly.
to recoup some of their.
Yeah.
So it kind of falls in line
Yeah.
that,
Wayne, go ahead and just share what you've learned as
Sure.
you've looked at this.
So if you look at it in the national averages, you're anywhere from 30 cents a kilowatt hour to 48 in most cases. Much like gasoline, it's dependent upon where the charger's located, how far away you are from the next charger. Some of those, you know, start to come into play as we all know how gas prices go. You're going to see it, I think, and again, this is all speculation because we don't know. But as more vehicles hit the road and more chargers are stood up in different locations, it'll become a more competitive market that we'll have to maintain at least a watch on daily. Will they change daily? I hope not. But, you know, like we've all agreed, is we want to offer whatever service we can at the lowest rate possible while still being able to pay for our investments. You know, that's our main objective. It's not to necessarily make money, if you will, but just to, you know, help fund that project.
Yeah.
So,
And what I would anticipate from the board, you know, like if I was in your shoes, would be, you know, kind of a monthly report. Here's what we're seeing, and you know, there's nothing saying that. In fact, I have the way I'm proposing it is that it's this range of, you know, 24 to 50 cents a kilowatt hour until the board changes it. You know, so that the board always has the option to do something different. But this is a way of just getting, I think it's a range wide enough because what we're seeing is, I think we've seen some 32-cent rates.
Right.
We've seen some 48-cent rates, you know, across the country. Having that range of 24 to 50 allows us to fit somewhere probably in that mid 30 cents per kilowatt hour range and have it be an investment that's somewhat paying for itself and competitive with the market and still providing a service to the customers.
so I know our next meeting is sooner than
Yeah.
normal, but by then, you should be able to tell us how many people have pulled up and hooked up and
Yep.
how much.
Yes, ma'am. So through this vendor or through this manufacturer of ChargePoint, where we have purchased our chargers from, they provide a portal that we can log into, and it'll give you, real-time information. It's all time and date stamped, how many vehicles have been there, how many charged, the amount of energy used, how long the vehicle was connected to the charger, just pretty much any kind of question you might can come up with, in analytics, it's going to be able to, at any point in time, we can see that.
How long does it take to charge?
Language.
I guess I'm thinking of its
This is the
impact
language.
on businesses that are nearby, that if somebody pulls up down there to charge, I mean, do you just like literally leave your car plugged up and walk up to the square, grab something to eat,
That's-
come back? Is
sure.
that the logic?
Yeah, that's very possible. And depending on, the vehicle, they range anywhere from 100, I try to get some numbers before I come in to the meeting, but they'll range anywhere from 40 kilowatt hour capacity up to 100 kilowatt hour capacity. So what you're looking at on the average is, to get full charge on the largest battery out there, if you come in pretty much completely depleted, you're looking at a 45-minute to 1 hour window. So,
Yeah. And the whole purpose with the TBA's program was to get these relatively close to some of the major thoroughfares, and of which, Cumberland Parkway is one. They wanted it within a mile, but when we proposed the location that we did, which was somewhere around 1.4 miles, and it was right near the square, and we told them why, because it was just potentially to draw people downtown. They agreed to it, but yeah, because of the longer charging time, that's why we wanted to get it, close to something.
And to kind of bring it, full circle back to the rate that you were previously speaking to, these chargers are 125 kW on the AC side, and they're 1,000 volt direct current side charge to the battery. So when you're looking at that demand that you could be hit in that window of 125 kW on peak or at our coincident peaks.
Yeah, both of them were being used at once, and both batteries that were being connected were depleted. We would see up to 125 kW demand. We'll probably never really see that. It'll probably always be around 100 or below, even if two vehicles simultaneously connect, but it could, each charger is rated at 62.5 kW, so the combined of the two is the 125. Although I guess if only one of them is being used.
It will. It'll actually output. It'll feed off the other charger and
Yeah.
power share. So
Yeah,
there
they
is a
work together, so,
possibility.
so one vehicle could still see that
That's
that
correct.
125 kW draw, so.
I would just add to what Dave said. He did discuss, the statute, who's supposed to set the rates. Of course, according to statute, the board's supposed to set the rate. So we're still setting the rate, which is a range, so that he doesn't have to come back. If you get to where you're changing it weekly,
Yeah.
we don't gotta come back and have a special meeting. Hey, let's change the rate just for this,
Yeah.
meeting. So it gives him that range until you guys change the range, depending on what happens, and nobody really knows at this point.
And, again, I'll just emphasize that this is getting us started, and after a few months, we might say, okay, we need to make an adjustment and redo it. But this is, allows us to set a rate of, say, 35 cents and begin to see what's happening, so.
On this charging station, it is card only or card and cash?
No, it is actually mainly app operated. So
App operated.
Yeah, your drivers will have electric vehicles owners will have an app
Mhm.
that they're able to map their route or just find a charging station, and then they preload money on that app
Okay.
via their account, and then it deducts it from that as it charges.
And can you use a credit card on it or not? Yeah, it has to be app driven, yeah.
Mm. Okay.
I say that to say this, there is some software release type stuff that's coming. They're not quite there yet, ready to release it through ChargePoint to be able to use those. my understanding, so I think they may get to that at one point, but as of right now, it's.
So if we have a flip phone, we don't need an electric car.
I guess not.
You're right.
Yeah. And, you know, again, I can't emphasize enough that my reason for wanting us to get involved with this is really to learn and understand the technology as it evolves. You know, I don't see us being in the market of installing more of these. This is really, you know, we could, but this is really for us to have firsthand information to understand the EV charging market, you know.
It is designed and built where we can, like Dave said, if needed. The route is there, the wire size, it was all kind of overbuilt. In
Yeah.
the event we ever did add state or chargers in this area.
Yeah, we could add more to this
Cost
location.
difference was very minuscule as far as upsizing the wire and things of that nature, so we went ahead and done that
Yeah.
That's good.
now.
So, you know, what then, the proposed language for the guideline that's being proposed is that the superintendent of the Glasgow Electric Plant Board shall have the discretion to set rates for customers using its company-owned EV chargers at market-based rates on a kilowatt-hour basis within the range set by the board. The rate range shall be a minimum of 24 cents per kilowatt hour and a maximum of 50 cents per kilowatt hour until other action is taken by the board. The reason that this specifies on a kilowatt hour basis is that there are some rates out there that are in the marketplace that are based on time. You know, if you connect for 15 minutes, they charge you so much. I'm not exactly sure how that works really, but I think it's, yeah. But this is, we want to, the one specification I'm really making is that we want it to be on a kilowatt hour basis. So that's what we know. So.
And you can change the rate from inside of here, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And does it have a camera on it?
They do not.
But we have cameras in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, those don't have cameras on them, but we have cameras looking at it, so
Okay.
for vandalism and things like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
People crazy.
All right, if that's it, I don't know if I need to reread it. I think you made it pretty plain, but I'll entertain a motion to adopt the following rate schedule and the language as presented.
Motion.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Motion?
Okay, had a motion by Lowry,
Second.
second by Rowlett. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes. Guess we can move on to Part D.
Yep, and the final item to really vote on tonight is considering a change to the document that we have on file. It's the Electric Plant Board of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky's interconnection procedures for renewable distribution generation. What we'd like to do is change the wording to the following, and this is as a result of a customer request, but the customer request is reasonable, and the wording that we had was kind of limiting it too much. It was probably something that was put in place when, Amy, 10 years ago?
About 10 years ago.
Yeah. And, you know, the distributed generation, which is solar power or wind or, you know, renewables, was different 10 years ago than it is today. So anyway, what's being proposed is that is to change the wording in paragraph 2.26 of the document mentioned maximum size for single phase. And it reads, if the proposed DG equipment, distributed generation equipment, is to be interconnected on a single phase shared secondary or service, the aggregate generation capacity of the shared secondary or service shall not exceed 20 kW. Requests for such generation capacity more than 20 kW will be considered by the distributor and will be subject to the distributor's system capacity. So yeah, I recommend that the board approve the proposed language to this section as presented.
What did the old
It was 15 kW.
15.
15, so we're just increasing it
to 20, but we're also inserting language that allows us to go beyond the 20 if needed, or if, you know, the system capacity will allow it. The language before really is just set a cap, hard cap at 15 kW, and that was kind of it, you know, didn't really have discretion in there. So, does that pretty much cover the change?
So something we've learned from this is if someone's considering installing solar panels,
Talk to us first.
please talk to the local power company. Maybe the building inspector, the electrical inspector, but
Yeah.
definitely the local power companies
Yeah.
for doing that. And
Yeah.
maybe this is set a path where it'll be easier for the next person
Yeah.
if they choose to do that. But anyway, is there any other questions or anything? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed updated language to the Glasgow Electric Plant Board's interconnection procedures document as was presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion by Oliver. I'll
Second.
You got a second? Okay, second by Mr. Rowlett. Any other questions? All right, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes.
Okay.
Part E, I guess.
Yeah, so just a couple of reminders of upcoming agenda items. Got the audit presentation and discussion in November. That was originally going to be tonight, but we pushed it off for a month just because of some things that our auditor had going on. And then the biannual write-offs will be in December. We'll have a proposed payroll budget in December. And then just a reminder on, under item F, that next month's meeting is the third Tuesday, which is November 21st. And then the December meeting will be also the third Tuesday, which is December 19th. So, I think that's it.
Okay. That's everything? All righty, if there's nothing else, then I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Pritchard and a second by Lowry. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All right. Meeting